Hello, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 1, Solving Problems with Addition and Subtraction, Lesson 12. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to work with frequency trees, and you saw how that was linked to two-way tables which you had learned from your previous lesson. In today's lesson, you're going to learn how to solve problems with bar charts and line charts. So it's another way of representing data that you would see in maths, and you would see it even in newspapers. Okay, you would see it all the time. It's really, really common. But before we start, I would like to ask you, like the video, share it with those you think can benefit, subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification bell so that when new videos are released, you would be notified. By doing that, you'll help us grow our mission of educating the global population of children who may not have the financial resources to have high quality maths education. So, one way for those of you in other parts of the world, one way of helping those children is by providing a means for them to have internet access and they have free education. Thank you. Right. I would like you to do these retrieval practice questions in 2 minutes. Okay, assuming you've answered these questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So for the first one, you were asked what number is the arrow pointing to for each of the number line. For this one, we can see that the intervals, I hope you haven't forgotten how we read intervals. You can see that the intervals, their value is 2. You have from 0 to 2, 2 to 4. So if from there to there is, a difference of 2, then it means halfway has to be 9. All right. So that should be 9. And then here, we can see that looking at the number line, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 intervals between 0 and 100. So we know already to get the value of each interval, we will do 100 divided by 5, which gives us 20. It means each of these interval is 20. But looking at the arrow, you can see that the arrow is pointing at the part of the number line which is 1, 2, 3, 3 intervals after 300. So that number must be 360. Next, you're asked, what is the range of the list of numbers? I hope you haven't forgotten what range is. Range is the largest number minus the smallest. Okay, so the largest number is 32 minus the smallest, which is 4, which gives us 28. Okay, let's do some new learning for today's lesson. Remember, our lesson today, we're learning how to interpret bar charts and line charts and even to use it to answer questions. So here is our first example. You ask, the bar chart shows the number of days that students in one class revise maths per week. So on the horizontal axis, we have number of days. On the vertical axis, we have number of students. And we have the bars showing us different information. For example, this one is showing us that 6 students revised for just 1 day. And then 8 students revised for 2 days. Okay, so let's use it to answer some questions. How many students revise for 3 days per week? So we go to the bar that represents 3 days per week, and we read to the left of the bar the horizontal axis, the vertical axis, which represents the number of students, and we can see it is 4. Next one, how many students are in the class? Well, we know that this represents the number of students and they revised for different days of the week. So to be able to find that out is we need to read from the right to the left to pick out each of the numbers. So that's 6 students, add 8 students, add 4 students, add 3 students, add 2 students, add 1 student, and another 1 student. So altogether, there were 25 students. Let's look at another example. Have you noticed something about the difference between this bar chart and this one? So this one is called a multiple bar chart. So we have multiple bars in groups. All right. We have multiple bars in groups, and it's used to categorize information. So, for example, this bar chart shows the number of people attending a gym categorized by age. So those, you have those who did the same thing on the same day, but they are of different ages. So if you're putting things in category, then you have to put a key. So this here underneath the bar chart is called a key, and that tells us how to interpret the bar chart. Okay, so let's answer some questions. So here is the first one. What is the difference between the number of people who attend the gym on each day for the over 50 age group? So this question is concerned with the over 50 age group, which is this green. You can see it's a key. So the key will help you to say, oh, okay, I'm just going to focus on the green bars. Okay. Okay. So for the over 50, for the green bar, you can see that some of them attended on Saturday and some of them attended on Sunday. So we're going to read the bar. Okay. That should be 19. Subtract 4, and that should be 15. Okay. So you should know how to read multiple bar charts, which is used to categorize information. All right, pause the video and answer question 1 in 3 minutes. You can take longer. You don't have to do it in 3 minutes. You can take longer. You can take shorter time. All right, assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. So here you ask some questions, and then you're required to use the bar charts to answer the question. So how many matches were played in the season? Yeah. So you can see this one is telling you the number of matches. Again, you just have to add these bars. Okay. You should be able to read bars by now. In how many matches did the team score at least 3 goals? So at least. So they could have scored more. So we look for number of goals. All right. So you can see this one is 4. So we read that one 3, which is 3. And then that one is those who scored 3 goals. So 4 plus 3 should be 7. That's why we have 7 here. What is the range of the number of goals scored? Okay. So you can see the number of goals. You have the highest is 4 and the lowest is 0. So we do 4 minus 0. Remember, range is the highest minus the lowest. Okay, the highest number minus lowest. Next, how many goals did the team score altogether in the school? How many goals did the team score altogether in the season? So in the season, the total number of goals that the team scored, the answer is right there. So by now, you should know how to read charts. Yeah. So I hope you're not confused about this one, knowing the number of goals they scored. Okay, because you can multiply. The way to do that, you can say, okay, for example, for this one, you say the number of matches where they scored 4 goals, you say there are 3, so it has to be 3 times 12, right? So if they play 3 matches and in each of the matches they scored 4 goals, so altogether they scored 12 goals, and then plus this one, that's 12, add, then that should be 3 times 4, which is another 12, 24. That's 2 times 8, which is 16. 24 plus 16 should be 40, right? And then here, 40 plus 11 is 51, right? So I hope you're not confused about that one. Okay, question 2. Here you're required to, so this is again a multiple bars chart. The bar chart shows Scott's scores in tests in English, maths, and science in 4 months at school. And then you're required to use that information to answer these questions. And you can see the key there, yeah? And so what was Scott's score in maths in October? So we go maths, okay? Maths looks like the white one in October. So we go there. All right. Okay, I'll ask you pause the video and answer the question. I'm beginning to answer the question already. Sorry about that. So pause the video in 4 minutes and answer the questions. Sorry. All right. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the question, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So here you asked, so sorry about that. So here you asked, what was Scott's score in maths in October? So we go maths, October. We read, you can see it's really close. So halfway between 70 and 80 is 75. So that should be 74. You can see it's really close to 75. And then next you ask, workouts. Sorry, why is that not showing? You ask, work out the total of Scott's scores in December. So in December, the total of all his scores will be maths, English, and science added all together. Yeah, the total of his scores, and that will give you that one. Then next, you ask find the difference between Scott's maths and science scores in November. And then that's the answer. All right. And then next, you describe how Scott scores change in each subject over the 4 months. So you read the table. So he has consistently improved in maths and English, more so in maths. In science, his science score was, what was it, decreasing, but improved in December. Yeah, so you just require to observe the bar chart and to describe what you see. All right. We'll now move on to the second part of the lesson where we'll learn about line charts. So line charts is another way of representing data. Now, look at this line chart. If we ask, for example, how tall was the plant in March? All right, so we can see the vertical axis is showing us the height of the plant, and then the horizontal axis is showing us the months on the chart corresponding to the height. So how tall was the plant in March? So we go to the month, we look for March, we read all the way, use a ruler if you're working on paper, and then you draw all the way to the vertical axis to read the height. It's 40 centimeter. It's important when you write your answer, when reading charts, that you put your unit if it has a unit. Next, you ask, in what month was the plant 70 centimeter tall? So 70 centimeter is not actually given to us here, but we know that it has to be halfway between 60 and 80, because between 60 and 80 we have a difference of 20. So halfway has to be 10 add 60. So we trace it down all the way to the line chart, and we trace it down to the horizontal axis, which is June. So we say June. Next, we ask, estimate the date when the plant was 30 centimeter tall. Well, we're not giving 30 centimeter on the vertical axis, but we can know that we can estimate that it's actually half. Now, notice that when we trace it, it doesn't match with any of the points that are plotted on the line chart, which means it's an estimate. So we're using the line chart to do an estimate. So the way to do that, we'll now draw a vertical line down to the horizontal axis. Well, we know it's between February and March, so we're going to assume it's between 1st of February and the beginning of March, right? Because it's between February and March. So we'll just say, well, it has to be halfway, which will be February 14th. Yeah, there are 28 days in February, except a leap year, which is 29 days. All right, here is our final line chart example for the lesson. So sometimes you have a line chart that looks like this. So not all line charts will go from top to bottom, bottom left to top right. Some line charts, you see them from bottom right to top left. Some line charts would look like this. So we'll ask some questions. Have a think. How would you answer these questions? Okay. I'm sure for the first question, you ask which 2 days had an equal amount of sunshine. Well, the way we do it is we look for the hours of sunshine. Well, that's the vertical axis, and we look for 2 points that are of the same value, and it has to be that one and that one. So the 2 days are the 1st and the 6th. Okay. Next, you ask, which day do you think had the most cloud? Well, the chart does not exactly tell us the day that has the most cloud. But when you're reading line chart, you can use it to infer some information. Okay, to infer means to make a guesstimate or a reasonable conclusion from what you see. Well, we're going to assume that the day that has the lowest number of sunshine, which is this one, has to be the day where there is most cloud. Of course, that's the way it is in England, isn't it? For those of you who are watching this video in England or even in other parts of the world, so it should be the 4th. All right, you've been doing some learning. It's now time for you to practice. So pause the video and answer question 3 in 4 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and answered question 3, here are the answers. So here you asked, for how many months was the phone bill over £60? So again, you look, right, £60, all right, we should be somewhere here. And then you count the number of points that have been plotted that are over 60 over this line here. So you can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, those are the points. So if you were to draw a line across like this, you would see that the other points, there are 8 points that are above that line. Next, you ask, what is the range of the phone bills? So you look at the highest value for the phone, highest amount for the phone bill, and you subtract the smallest from the biggest. So it should be £17. So you see the highest value is about 74. Yeah, you can see it's close to 75. And the lowest you can see is about 57. So that's 55. That should be about 57. So it's like saying 74 minus 57, which should give you 17. Next, you're asked, between which 2 months was the greatest increase? It's November and December. So you can see November here. You can see a big jump all the way there. Yeah. Work out the total of the phone bills for June, July, and August. So you pick the phone bills for June, July, and August, and you add the numbers. How do you do that? You go for June, you read there, go horizontally to the vertical axis to read the number. Then you go for the other months, you pick out the numbers, and then you add them up. Next, you ask, the table shows the gas bills for the same period. Add these to the graph in a different color. So all you need to do is to go to the graph of the different months and to plot these numbers in, and then that will give you this, this graph here in a different color. Okay. Pause the video and answer question 4 in 4 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 4, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Here you asked, can the graph be used to find the temperature at 11:30 a.m.? Well, we could make an estimate, but really, if you look, you would see that if you go for 11:30 a.m., there is no plotted point for that value. So no, temperature can't, sorry. So no, temperature isn't necessarily increasing or decreasing at a constant rate. So the graph, what this means, another way to explain it, if it was a nice straight line, okay, or a line that goes like that, that is showing us. So what I mean, let me write. So if it was a line that is steady like that, we can use it to make an estimate because we know it is changing at a constant rate. Or if it was a line that is decreasing nicely like this, we can use it to make an estimate. But this is not really steady. It's going up and down. It's all over the place. So we can't really use it as a proper graph to make an estimate. And here is C. What is the range of the temperature? So you pick the lowest value, you pick the highest value, and you subtract the lowest from the highest, which is 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Always remember to write the unit as you read it from the graph. Next, you ask between which two times was the greatest decrease in temperature. So you go to the graph, the greatest decrease in temperature, you read from there all the way the time and there. So those are the greatest decrease between 12 and 1 p.m. Okay? So between 12 and 1 p.m. Yeah. So the next one to it. This one is less than that because when you look at the numbers, when you read that and you read that, you compare to every other one, they are the greatest decrease. During which season of the year was the day these temperatures were recorded? Discuss your answer with your partner. Well, that's for you to discuss. Okay, that brings us to the end of our lesson. So, what have we learned today? So, we have learned that you can interpret bar charts and line charts, and they're very useful even in real life. When you read newspapers, you see it on the news. It's everywhere. Okay, and the secret is you can use line charts to make estimates, but you need to make sure that the line chart is a nice straight line, you know, where the values showing that the values are changing at a constant rate, or it's a line that goes that way where the values are decreasing at a constant rate. Well done for sticking around and learning. Until next time, take care and bye-bye.